Attention higher leaders, it's time to shake up your marketing and enrollment strategy. Join us at Insights EDU February 17th to the 19th, 2026 in Fort Lauderdale, Florida for a beachfront experience and the best higher education marketing and enrollment management conference. Early bird pricing ends December 15th, 2025. Register now at insightsedu.com. The future unbound is at Insights EDU 2026.
Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Dr. Joe Salustiel back with you on another episode. And I'm going to get right to my reminder and then get to my guest co-host and guests, because I know we're going to have a great conversation today. Here's the reminder. As if you aren't tired of hearing me say it, I know I'm going to say it again, but I know you're tired of hearing it if you listen to this podcast. But we heard feedback from our colleagues across higher ed. And by heard feedback, I tried to do something and it didn't work the way I wanted. So I said, I got to try to do it myself and then have my colleagues help me. That's what I mean. And it's that I submitted this article to some of the trade publications and they didn't want it. And I got a little miffed at that, to be quite honest, because there wasn't necessarily an angle. It was an opinion piece. And, you just wonder, how do we get good stuff out there in higher education? What if a university launches a new program or a new initiative or builds some innovation hub? How do we get the message out there? Well, we created EdUp editorials off of the EdUp Experience website. So if you go to edupexperience.com, you can click on EdUp editorials, and we're publishing articles by our colleagues across higher education that have something that they want to say that's important for their institution. And we send that out to our global, worldwide audience. Global and worldwide mean the same thing, but you get the point. We send it out to our audience across different countries, including the United States, so that people can get that message about what's happening that's going well in our industry, that I think we need to tell a much stronger and broader story about what we do. So that's EdUp editorials. You can submit an article to us at the edupexperience@gmail.com. That's not hard. edupexperience@gmail.com. And that's enough for the self-promotion today. But we want to tell good stories. I know somebody else that wants to tell a good story, and that's my guest co-host today, ladies and gentlemen. Let me bring in right now. She's Dr. Noreen Golfman, and the crowd will not sit down. She's a former administrator, VP of Academic Affairs, and she's back again. Noreen, how are you?
I'm terrific. Very glad to be here. Thanks, Joe.
Noreen, this is the second time we're going to do this together. You're like a seasoned pro. You've done podcasting before. It's such a powerful medium to tell a powerful story about what we do. And I think we need to tell better stories, don't you? I think we have to tell the world what we do in a much broader way.
Yeah, and I would underscore that by saying I've never felt more urgent about the need to tell the good stories about what higher ed is doing. Of course, what the challenges are, but there's so much good work being done. We're educating the world, frankly, and that's perhaps taken for granted, but we're here to fill the ears of attentive listeners who want to know all about it.
Man, I got to bring you around with me more often. You say good stuff. Fill the ears. I like that. I'm going to introduce somebody that will fill your ears, ladies and gentlemen, with a lot of goodness. I know, because I've met him a couple times, and he's talking, and he's always talking about good. He's always talking about the good work. He's talking about his colleagues and students. Let's get him in right now. He's Dr. Ronald Rochon. He's the president at Cal State Fullerton. Welcome to the mic, Ron. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks a lot for listen. I appreciate the applause and everything. This is wonderful. I'm excited about being here with you all today. Thank you.
Victory! And that concludes this episode of the EdUp Experience. No, that we actually have to do the talking, but I felt with a compliment like that, I should end it. No, Ron, you obviously Cal State is a massive system. I've talked to many of your colleagues across the system, but tell us a little bit about Cal State Fullerton, where you are, other than the obvious, who you serve, and how do you serve them?
Yeah, well, we're in Orange County, California. It's we're the only CSU in the entire county, actually. There are many CSUs that are in adjacent counties that actually, I don't want to say they compete with one another, but we are the sole CSU in the entire county. I think we are the sixth largest county in the nation, in fact, hovering around 3 million residents or citizens, that reside in Orange County. We have about 44,000 students on our campus that are overwhelmingly coming from first generation backgrounds. We are a very, very racially, ethnically, linguistically diverse campus. It's an exciting place to be at. We have 8 different colleges that provide all kinds of majors and programs for our students. Our candidates are quite often working many, many hours to make ends meet. These students are providing, in many ways, resources to their families. Some of them are primary breadwinners for the family. In fact, we find ourselves identifying in a very proud way as an HSI. We are a Hispanic serving institution, and I say serving intentionally, not enrolling, but we are bound to serve each and every candidate coming across our threshold. It's important to us. This past May, Joe, we graduated over 11,000 students walking across the stage. I shook a lot of hands. It was an exciting opportunity to be on campus that entire week. We had over 100,000 visitors on campus celebrating our students during that week of commencement. Very, very exciting. So I should also indicate that we are an Asian American, Native American, Pacific Islander serving institution. We are finding ourselves with nearly 80% of our graduates stay within about a 50-mile radius of our university. Our students don't go very far away. There are all kinds of development opportunities for them to seek employment and provide positive outcomes for the bottom line for many, many CEOs and their agencies. And also, we are truly one of the largest public employers in Orange County. We are truly training America's workforce, and it makes me excited to let you to know that as well. But this is kind of a sense of who we are. Let me say this also. You asked a very, very important question about, how and why. We are intentional. I really believe in this concept that I learned from a friend of mine years ago, and it's called radical hospitality. Ways in which students come to campus, they feel a sense of belonging immediately. It's important that our faculty and staff understand that students like ours who are working hard, who have done well, who are disciplined, who have chosen Cal State Fullerton have options. They have choices. And I want to make sure that we are worthy of this choice. I want to make sure that we are intentional with our effort to touch them intellectually, emotionally, socially, culturally, but also intellectually. That we are very intentional with regard to how we are providing outreach to our candidates. And then last but not least, making sure that faculty and staff are collaborating with one another. I came from this kind of old school thought, the way I was trained, I think, as an academic, of understanding the significance of academic affairs. I have grown into this position that is non-negotiable for me, that academic student affairs are interdependent. Without the two working together, dealing with the wholeness of the student, we are going to fail. Recognizing that we need to be mutually respectful, mutually intentional, but also mutually collaborative with intentionality is so important for student success to occur at Cal State Fullerton and any university, in fact. But this, Cal State Fullerton is my wheelhouse, and this is where I'm excited about being.
2 quick questions to follow up, because that's so much information. One, when you shake 11,000 hands, which I think is probably the bare minimum, you probably shook hands from parents and brothers and sisters. Was there more pain in the handshake by number 11,000, or just empty bottles of hand sanitizer? Is a little bit of a germaphobe that kind of freaks me out just a tad.
Well, so full disclosure, I'd have to shake all 11,000.
Oh, okay.
And a provost presiding over the other half of the ceremonies. However, I shook more hands than the provost shook, without question.
You will tell the provost repeatedly and over and over and over again till the next
without
graduation,
question.
Right?
May I say something that is a bit funny, but I will say this to you. What was messaged by me to everyone is that the enthusiasm that was felt by the very first handshake needs to be felt on steroids by the last handshake.
So well said. Yeah, that's like a checkup from the neck up, as they say, that no matter, and it comes back to your point, and then I'm going to pass it to Noreen, but you talked about the service culture, the culture of service that we have to maintain, right? Radical, what did you call it? Radical?
Hospitality.
Hospitality. So true. And I wrote this article recently called the skip intro generation. And we're engineered now as humans for speed and efficiency. When you go to your favorite streaming service, you don't even spend a minute to watch the introduction before your spouse or partner hits you in the arm and says, skip it, skip it.
Yeah.
So you think about how a service mentality is really at the baseline of all we do. And you talked about serving. You said it. You said not enrolling, but serving.
Yes, sir.
And I think that's just a really interesting point, and would elaborate, if you would elaborate on what that means at Cal State Fullerton. Yeah.
And Noreen, I apologize. I should have acknowledged you at the onset as well. I guess what I really want folks to understand is that I spoke with a colleague. Her name is Cynthia Olivo. She's the president of Fullerton College. It's a 2-year institution, well established here in Fullerton. And, she and I were talking about this pipeline that I'm trying to really enhance, understanding the significance of the work that she and her colleagues are doing. What she told me was really interesting. She said, listen, I want you to know that our students are leaving a very small, very intimate space, working with faculty and staff across our very beautiful campus, and they're coming to the big, big city. Now, we are literally just miles from one another, but she's calling Cal State Fullerton the big city because it is huge, it's complex, it's organically moving in so many different directions. And so she said, if there's anything you can do to help us make sure that our students, and she uses the term our so sincerely, our students are transitioning in a very seamless way without fraud. And this is what I'm speaking about with regard to service, making sure that we're intentional in understanding that there's another population of students who are accustomed to one set of circumstances or services, and finding that to be true and consistent here at Cal State Fullerton should not be negotiated. It should be consistent. It should be intentional. And so what we're doing, for example, we are working hard with her at creating space where we will have Cal State Fullerton employees on her campus on a weekly basis talking about this seamless transfer. That's number one. Making sure that students are not taking classes out of term that are interested in going in one major versus another major. That's number two. And then also having a faculty member teach on her campus to provide a greater sense of transitional comfort, if you will, as they're taking classes there. They're preparing for Cal State Fullerton at the same time. Now, to take that a step further, I propose that we have one of her colleagues teach on our campus as well. And so we have this relationship, we have this kind of dual space, and we're responding to the needs of students with regard to comfort, transition, and success. At the end of the day, that's what we're most concerned about, is how they define success for themselves. And one of the things we're learning is transition is huge. It is significant. I'm learning a great deal just by meeting students, talking to them, finding out where our gaps are, what the needs may be for them, and how we can address those in a very healthy, kind of collaborative way.
Tell them like it is.
Noreen, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. There's so much I want to ask you about that you're touching on. Let me ask you something personal about how you, as a president, how do you enact radical hospitality? You just said you meeting with students. What form does that take? And what do you do? Maybe not daily, but what do you do in your leadership role to ensure that? Surely you're inspiring a team of people who get that. That's that intentionality. And what are you doing about it personally?
Yeah. One of the things, this is going to sound simple, Noreen, but it's very true to me. And that is speak to people. Look at people in the eyes, shake their hand, ask a student or a staff member or a faculty member, how they are doing, and truly be interested in how they're doing. This is something we should not negate. The significance of relationship building, the significance of accessibility, the significance of authenticity is huge. And I think that, Joe's delivery at the onset is so important because we are looking for ways to expedite, ways to dot the I, cross the T and get it done. But I haven't found anything that has begun to supersede the desire for having a relationship and having some kind of connection with another human being. I haven't seen anything like that come forward that has been able to negate the significance of that need, that necessity. And so being present is important. Having lunch with students, just going over to the quad and interrupting people. Say, hey, listen, may I please sit down with you guys? Having them come talk to my chief of staff and create opportunities where I can have a lunch to hear what's going on. One thing that I've done, I made it very clear as a new president that the things that you bring to me may not be addressed this semester, it may not even be addressed before you graduate. But what can we do collectively to enhance the experience of those who inherit the bones that we lay as a foundation? And when you lay that out for students very clearly, you begin to see a kind of a resonating, successful response. One quick example: we have a brand new wellness center that's being approved by my office through students. And the students who have brought it forth are overwhelmingly graduating seniors, knowing that they will not benefit from this wellness center. But they made it very clear that future Titans need this, they deserve this, and we want to be a part of their success. We want to be a part of them having a new experience that we were not able to enjoy. And so I think that this hospitality that I'm speaking about is engaging in developing and sustaining good relationships.
Epic.
Terrific. How has a post-COVID world challenged that? Do you do a lot of hybrid teaching and committee meeting or online stuff? I mean, you're a post-COVID president, aren't you?
Yes.
So I'm just wondering what you might say about entering into that world was transitioning. It still is in part from, lockdowns for several years and the non-human part of it that we all had to experience.
Yeah. Well, I was a president during COVID as well in Indiana. So I lived through that thing, and I know what it's like being a post-COVID participant as well. Without question, the reality is that we have moved into a space that some have become extremely comfortable with, and in fact, some desire, and that is a hybrid opportunity. I'm not opposed to that, but I do understand this right here, that overwhelmingly, the students who we serve, first generation students in particular, those who are working many, many hours, as I mentioned before, are looking for a forward-facing opportunity to meet faculty and staff, to again have a relationship with them, to talk with them. Now, don't get me wrong. There are many, many students who enjoy the opportunity to email a professor or a staff member at 3 in the morning and expect a response at 8:01 when they wake up. So socializing people to help them understand about what's real and what's available and what's possible and what's radically hospitable are two different things. And so we are very candid and direct about that. I understand the significance of having different pipelines of instruction, of advising, of accessibility on campus, of convenience. All those things mean something, and we as a university have to be responsive. The days of faculty and institutions building it and they will come are over. We have to be responsive and strong listeners to what our clients want. In fact, some of my colleagues use the term customer. I think we've always found that to be offensive as academics, but it's real. When I tell you students have options, they have options. And when you have a narrative out there that the value proposition on higher ed is falling by the wayside, being overwhelmingly and having the strong momentum, it would behoove me to listen to that narrative and to counter it with options and opportunities and success. And this is how we do it.
So are you hearing from students or others that there needs to be more flexibility in the system? Does options mean that?
Oh, without question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's tough to do, right? These institutions are so rigid.
Yeah, but I got to tell you, if you don't want to become a dinosaur, you had better become more nimble. Listen, you and I witnessed something during COVID. You brought COVID up. We witnessed something not just at one institution, but institutions across the nation, in fact, across the globe, that nimbleness is a possibility even within the academy. We saw it, it occurred, and we did it. We were responsible. We did not go in, crawl into the fetal position and lie in the corner and say, "Wake me up when it's over." We didn't do that. We found a way to convey, to communicate, and most importantly, to execute. And that's what we have to continue to do right now as well, even during post-COVID.
Right on. Are you hearing as well more demand for work integrated learning or more kind of applied workforce, labor market pathways? I'm interested in, very sizable number of your student body is working to make
Yeah,
ends meet, as you say, not necessarily working at jobs I imagine that they want to end up in.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, you know, what about options around all of that? And how does how does your shop sort of frame options for post-graduation?
I love this question. For me, it's just not about graduation and job placement. For me, it's about, ways in which we accept a student. So let's take example, a stop out. We've had a student who literally has gone to class for a number of years because of a family crisis, because of lack of resources, whatever the case may be, had to stop out and has stopped out for, half dozen, maybe even 10 years. This student has found herself or himself, in a position where they can come back to school. And the question now is, what have you been doing over those many years? And how can we potentially utilize some of those experiences, that experiential learning, experiential development, experiential execution professionally? How can we utilize that within the classroom and take full advantage of that space for you to be advantageous for the candidate? And so I love your question. I got to tell you, I don't know that we are equipped today, but it is an area that I would like to see us move into. I think that not only do students deserve that, but our non-traditional students in particular, who have amazing experiences, as you already know, could come to the table and quite often lead a class, lead a seminar, lead a capstone project, just because of what they've been through. And so this query is so strong, and I think that it speaks boldly about the direction that higher education should not only be considering, but a direction we should be going into.
Yeah, it seems to me that, what you spoke of as a narrative beyond, let's say, the walls of our institutions that threatens to some degree. You didn't use the verb, but I'll use it. The value and purpose and mission of what we do and what we think we're about. Um, really thinking hard about messaging, about being, and then messaging exactly what you're talking about would have appeal. A kind of purposefulness and relevance and it's about access clearly too, but about you really giving direction
Yeah.
and respecting the experience of others. These are words that are easy to say, sometimes hard to get faculty on board and staff on board to move in that direction, to see it that way. Do you find that?
Yeah, yeah. I remember one time I was in a meeting. I won't even mention the institution, but I was an administrator, and I had come forward with some new online opportunities for the university to consider. And I'll never forget that a faculty member had accused me of trying to incorporate a degree meal at the institution, because of the numbers of candidates that we were going to be able to touch. And I made it very clear that a degree mill is nothing that I'm interested in creating or being a part of. And in fact, I thought he was giving me far too much credit. In fact, I said that publicly, that he was giving me far too much credit, seeing that I am not the faculty of record. I'm an administrator coming, to you with an idea. The faculty control the assessment of the candidate, not this administrator. So I really do agree with you. There are some drag points, but again, that program not only became successful at that university, it became a bread and butter kind of component for the university itself. The market share of that particular program that this university was able to garner grew exponentially very quickly. And you know what it had to do with? It had to do with quality. You know, I have not met anyone yet saying, I want a less quality program for my hard-earned dollar. I haven't met one yet. That was one thing. Convenience. It was extremely convenient for the candidate. People were working full-time jobs. They had families. They had other demands on them. And so we made it convenient. And then last but not least, the affordability. The value proposition was where it needed to be. And so we saw great promise. And oh, by the way, the last thing I should say to you is that the curriculum was relevant for the candidate immediately. So you weren't just dealing with a thesis or some kind of document that was going to sit on the shelf, but there was a real live capstone project that could be enacted at the job right now for your supervisor to see that you were making an impact on the bottom line. You were making an impact on culture. You were making an impact on morale. You were making an impact on the livelihood of the institution, of the workplace with your colleagues. And oh, by the way, they were excited about that. We had employers coming and talking to us about the impact this program was having. I take no credit as the administrator, other than we brought it forward. The credit goes to the faculty and staff who executed this program and did so with precision and with quality and also with great intentionality.
Sometimes the pushback comes with such a fierce statement initially to try to dismantle innovation. I mean, I think that's sometimes the way the structure is built. It's built to dismantle innovation and keep itself protected, and that's what trailblazing leaders look to do is to get by that initial barrier to build a team that's going to be able to push an idea forward. And I laugh because I've had that exact same statement thrown at me multiple ways from Sunday about creating a degree mill, especially when you bring forth online programs relevant in the marketplace. And then we have to look at everything that surrounds the academic offering. Like, for example, and to give you another personal example, there was a university I worked for where the online assignment submissions were due on Fridays. And I went, having something due Friday at 6:00, even though you had the weekend before to do it, like, that doesn't make sense for an online adult learning student. Like, you got to have the weekend. You got to, there's just some common sense things that we have to work through.
Yeah.
Because we all define our journey differently. It's all personalized or individualized to us. We're all taking education in different ways now. And that is expanding further. I'll get to my point eventually. But that's expanding further now. And you said it, I'm bringing this all the way back around. You said that student success is defined by the student themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a big time departure from the way that we have in higher ed said that student success is this output. Like, oh, well, we're going to improve our student success. We need to make sure our student success is better. And it means nothing when you say it like that. Like, it has to have some qualifier around it. And so you take the different journeys, the personalization, the expectations, and you bring that all the way around to how a student defines success for themselves. And that's a tall order when everybody thinks about it differently. How do you rationalize that whole idea of student success for a group, a large group of students, all looking at things a little bit differently?
If you think you can coast into 2026, think again. Insights EDU is coming February 17th to the 19th, 2026, and it's taking over Fort Lauderdale for a beachfront experience. It's the event that will flip your marketing and enrollment strategy on its head. 3 days, over 65 expert speakers, and over 40 sessions. Zero fluff. Just powerhouse strategies from the most anticipated platforms like Google, Reddit, Meta, MIQ Digital, and the most forward-thinking schools in the nation. You'll get the real wins, the bold ideas, and the hands-on tactics to grow programs, drive engagement, and create the student experience today's modern learner demands. The question is, are you ready to lead, or will you get left behind? Mark your calendar, bring your team, and secure your spot at insightsedu.com. That's insightsedu.com. Early bird pricing ends December 15, 2025. See you in Fort Lauderdale.
It's a great question. And it's hard to define, with a population of students that we have, again, so diverse and so large. But, I would tell you this, going over to one of our departments most recently, I went over to our engineering department and I met with a group of students who were extremely proud about what they were doing. Their success was being defined by them because they were collaborating. So one of the things that they were doing that I appreciated a great deal is that they were constructing these robots over in the engineering unit. They were actually constructing these automobiles that were to be driven by computers. They were actually, utilizing generative AI in ways in which I had not even imagined already. But what was happening also, they were speaking to other students over in philosophy. They were speaking to students in sociology. They had other kinds of brain power in the room, speaking about ethics, speaking about ways in which sociology, would impact a community. Um, this wasn't happening when I was an undergraduate student. Our majors were so segregated with regard to program building, faculty, but I'm seeing a brand new way in which they are exploring what it means to be a full-fledged credentialed citizen, coming
Mm.
from this institution. And so this success, again, not defined by me, but definitely observed by me, was orchestrated by faculty, staff, and driven by the students because the students are taking it to another level. They are engaging one another in conversations that are exciting, that are organic, and that are moving the needle in different directions with regard to how they see the world, how they want to engage the world with purpose, how they want to utilize each other as credentialed members of a campus community that is worthy of listening to. I think that is huge.
I love that story. I love it a lot. I like the creation of the robotics, and I like the integration of the ethical part of it too. Right? You think you have to pull on the other humans to help you define whether the AI you're generating or using as an engineer has the ethical framework around it. And you're not
Without
equipped to do
question.
that. But I mean, that's just a beautiful story. Noreen, sorry, I interrupted your whole line of questioning like
No,
that.
no, not at all. I on that note, how are you dealing with AI? It's a big question, and you can parachute into any part of that. Is it keeping you up at night, or are you embracing the new world order with gusto?
It's a tool, Noreen. Noreen, can I share this with you? It's a little bit personal, but Joe said something earlier, and I want to be sensitive and responsive to this, that change is not easy. Change is a bit threatening, especially when we don't understand what change means for us personally. And I think that, I need to always remain sensitive to that and understanding of it as well. AI is, I think, a beautiful tool with an opportunity to advance our thinking and our ability. I'm seeing more and more people utilize it, with great precision. I see more folks are being critical of what it does and what it's not able to do. But I think it's going to become a tool that we need to be prepared to engage. We have some faculty who are concerned about ethical behavior of students on campus. It's an ongoing debate and discussion. I get that. I think it's a worthy discussion. But I don't want us again to get kind of bogged down in this debate where we get left behind. Our students need to graduate with a greater sense of understanding as pertains to intellectual tools that are becoming more and more available. And for me, that is not up for debate.
Yep.
That is a reality. When I went to the dentist just recently, and I sat in that chair excited because they were using 21st century technology on my mouth. They were not using 19th century application. And so I say that, not tongue in cheek. I really mean that we need to understand the significance of what this will do to curriculum. What can we do to reposition, repurpose, redefine, and re-engage curriculum across all majors? You know, I think that many of us are feeling threatened about liberal arts, no longer being the cornerstone, excuse me, of the academy. Well, What can we do collectively as academics to make sure that it remains a foundational, a foundational piece of who we are as educated citizens? History and philosophy and sociology and art, these things build us as citizens. They don't take away from us. They make us stronger. They make us, I think, more adapt to understanding who our neighbor is and how we should want to engage our neighbor with civility and kindness and empathy and curiosity that is healthy and respectful. I believe in the arts. I believe in the humanities. I believe that they are fundamentally important. But I do believe this right here, that we have a responsibility to understand that there are many who do not. And the question is, what do we do about it? We can't, again, we don't go in the fetal position. We should be utilizing tools to help us repurpose, rebrand, re-engage, redefine these curricular pieces that are non-negotiable pieces of the academy.
I could not agree with you more as a an arts major. And of course, human belongs to humanities. And in fact, what I see now emerging is a conversation about the foundational importance of that whole spectrum of knowledge, bringing to bear on the ethical and also just the practical implications of AI. That if the human part of those inquiries out of those disciplines in humanities and social sciences are being seen, I think, in more enlightened spaces as absolutely fundamental to where we're going in curriculum change and thinking through reform and view of technology and view of AI. It's keeping that human-centered focus in a variety of ways, ethically, of course, but on those conversations. So I have more hope than I have in a while on an emerging recognition of that importance. And I would hope our institutions, our colleges, and our universities are embracing that, understand that, take that on, stress it, resource it, if
Mhm.
you will, and hire accordingly as well. Seems to me that's really important. It'd be very interesting to have this conversation 10 years from now and see what's changed in those disciplines. Let me ask you something else.
Can I just one
Yeah,
second?
go ahead, man.
I love what you just said. And think about this. We're having online discussions, 10, 20 years now, right? About where we were at one point. Listen, let me be clear with you. At the onset of online delivery, I was not a proponent. I was not excited at all. I said, how dare they even consider, this is a possible, as a possibility.
Yeah,
This is lunacy.
Without question. And look where we are right now, you know?
yeah.
And we just said it just minutes ago that because of online, because of where we were as an academy, we were able to deliver during COVID, during a pandemic, So I love your proposal. Call me in 10 years. Let's have the discussion.
Good. I'm gonna
It's like
pencil that one in.
10 years, you guys, it's like putting a ping pong table in a V and throwing the ping pong in the middle. It just goes bing, 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 back and forth. You have to think about how it wasn't too long ago, like 18 months, where the humanities were dead. And everything was going to be cut from colleges and universities that had anything about humanities. And all of a sudden, with the advent of AI, everybody goes, "Well, wait a minute. We were a little too quick to judge the humanities. We might need them." In fact, if you even go back just 2 years before that, they would eliminate cursive from K-12 and say every kid needs to learn how to code. Well, AI comes along and has anybody told you that you need to learn how to code lately? No, because you're going to have an AI program that does it for you. That's like in the last 3 or 4 years. 10 years from now, I think we're all going to be standing on our head, learning, it's going to be the Matrix. We're just going to automatically learn how to fly a helicopter. And I'm just going to fly over to wherever you live in Newfoundland. Aren't you in Newfoundland? And we're going to do this podcast live from now on. Who knows what's going to happen? So I'm waiting for you guys to see what you come up with, your 10-year conversation.
I'm not going to ask you what color pill you're taking to do all of that.
I can't tell you that.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, Joe, what's keeping you up at night these days?
Nothing keeps me up at night. I sleep great. Ask Ron that one.
Ron, what's keeping you up?
Wow. Candidly, right now, just thinking about the number of students who are being impacted by detainment, thinking about the number of families that are being disrupted. Thinking about the students who, who have fear about, coming back to campus because of family members who may be undocumented. I'm worried about, students who are fully documented, who have made a position that they will not come back because of political reasons or because of wanting to support, someone who lives next door or who may live with them. There's so many complex variables that are impacting the well-being of people, and it concerns me. I just left LA last week, and walking downtown and looking at the effects of the protests just recently, reading some of the tags on buildings, helps you understand the frustration, the anger, but also I don't know if we talk about the pain that you see in some of those tags on those buildings as well. This keeps me up. I'm concerned about what could be around the corner as students, return to campuses, not only in the state of California, but across the nation. What it can mean with regard to our inability to listen to one another, to talk to one another, and also to see each other. I would tell you all that I've said this publicly. I'll share this with you on your podcast. I'm struggling with the term alien. I really am personally struggling with it, and I know it's been in the lexicon for a while. But I'm really struggling about how we see people and what we convey to people about who they are. When I was growing up as a child, I just remember an alien being E.T., but not being someone who has blood running through their veins, with emotion, with empathy, with desire, with potential and promise. And I'm always wondering ways in which we convey to students about what our expectations are of them to come to the table with civility, regardless of your position, regardless of your political affiliation, regardless of your background. Come to the table with a tone of civility and desire to listen to one another. Yeah, so this is keeping me up, Noreen. I went a little long. I apologize.
Not at all. In fact, it would be concerning if that weren't keeping you up. Frankly, these are very, very troubled times for sure. I would hope that you take some comfort in the space you have as a senior leader overseeing such a
Mm.
big student cohort to make a difference, to offer whatever measure of reassurance you can, however you can do that. These are tough, tough times. I mean, can you imagine even saying any of this a year ago? You would have been kept up by other things,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
not by this.
yeah, yeah.
Well, it's interesting. Ron, let me ask you, Ron, because I think it's a good transition because you're the past chair at ASCU, let me see if I get it right, the American Association of State Colleges and Universities.
Yes, sir.
And when we were together in Puerto Rico, part of the message that came out of the talks that you gave and others gave was we need to sort of fight back, not sort of, we need to fight back a little bit more against the narrative that higher ed doesn't have value, or that a degree is not worth it, or that it's not worth it for some people and not others. There's a story that we have to tell in a stronger way. That was part of the theme of that conference. Fast forward now 6 months later, does that still persist, that we need to tell the stronger story, that we need to do more to reestablish the value of higher education for students of all kinds, of all backgrounds, of all statuses, because that makes a stronger economy? Or do you think people just generally get it, or do we need to be stronger?
No, I don't think people are just generally getting it. I do think that we have to be much more intentional, assertive, and also we need to be better storytellers, about what higher ed has done. You know, Listen, let me be clear with you all. I would not be sitting, on this podcast with you today if not for Tuskegee University, a small historically black college in Alabama that changed my life and prepared me for the University of Illinois for a master's and a PhD. These institutions opened doors for me. They opened my mind to thinking and about possibility. They taught me that I truly was worthy, And also they taught me that I am because of the South Side of Chicago and not in spite of. These experiences, these people who poured endless into me, and not just intellectual love, but they poured time. They invested their concern in me in so many different ways. And so I am doing what I was taught. I am, kind of going back to Noreen's question about hospitality and service. This is the way I was treated at Tuskegee. And listen, I was treated that way at a Big Ten university. Illinois is a big place. They made it intimate. They made it purposeful. They made it journey bound. And also they made it doable for me. They taught me that, listen, you put the time in, you put the discipline in, these are the things that you could do. And so my life really is centered around this healthy, amazing institution. Higher education is a transformative space. It does amazing things for people. And I'll share with you that I really believe that overwhelmingly, lots of people who have shared this less than value proposition or being upside down, their own kids are going to some of the best institutions on the globe.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, they've chosen this is a non-negotiable. It's a kitchen table. Where are you going? Not are you going, but where are you going? And so I believe that some of our most daunting challenges, the answer to those reside in underserved zip codes. How do we get higher education to be more accessible to brilliant candidates who have been taught that they are not worthy or they should not go? That is my calling. That is my desire. That is my job, and I want to open the door wider for those candidates.
What else do you want to say about Cal State Fullerton as we wrap up this episode, Ron? Anything else that you think we should have asked you, or anything else that you want to say broadly about Cal State Fullerton?
Yeah, one of the things that excite me also about being in this space is a public institution. It has an amazing mission, and it belongs to the people. Uh, I told folks, during my very first speech on campus that there's nothing on that campus that's called the University of Rochon. It is Cal State University Fullerton. We own nothing on that campus. It belongs to the people. And so please, those who are listening, please come and be a part of your campus. Please come and be mentors to your students. Please come and help us grow and evolve to do more in ways in which we serve this community. Please help us understand how we can be more effective and more responsive, more accessible. We want to be in that space, and Cal State Fullerton is primed for that service. I should tell you, I went to Costco. I shouldn't even mention that name. I apologize. I went to the store. Okay, just locally, I heard 7 different languages being spoken. You know, the music to that reality is phenomenal. We are in a space that is extremely well primed to open more and more doors to assist more and more people. And Cal State Fullerton, and I'll say this boldly, higher education is the agency, is the institution to carry out that mission.
Noreen, what'd you think about this?
Oh, man. Really very inspirational. Your energy is totally convincing, I have to say. I wish you much, much luck. As I say, these are troubled times for those of us who care so deeply about the potential that our institutions offer and manifest. So I'm very, very grateful for you for taking time out of what I'm sure is a very busy life. And again, best of luck in coming times. I'm sure I'll be watching, but it's been a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you both. This has been my honor. This is time well spent. And listen, if we can touch one life today and making them say, listen, you know what? Let me go and try this thing. I think we've done a great job today. So thank you for your time and thank you for the work you all are doing. It is significant. It is essential. It is necessary. So thank you.
Well, the good news is that we do reach more than one person out there with these podcasts, so there'll be a lot of people listening to this when it comes out. Ladies and gentlemen, he said a lot today. Please follow his work and what's going on at Cal State Fullerton. He's Dr. Ron Rochon. He's the president of Cal State Fullerton. And ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp'd.
Mark your calendars now for February 17th to the 19th, 2026. Because if you miss this, you'll be playing catch up all year. This is the future unbound and the most important higher ed marketing and enrollment management conference of 2026. Insights EDU is taking over Fort Lauderdale, where Google, Meta, Reddit, MIQ Digital, and top institutions nationwide will pull back the curtain on what's next. Are you ready to adapt or be left behind? Insights EDU 2026 is where leaders become game changers. Register now at insightsedu.com. That's insightsedu.com. Early bird pricing ends December 15th, 2025.